What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the MiraCLE podcast. I am your host, Kyle, and as you can tell, I am still sick, which is terrible. I mean, it's not terrible. It could be worse. I'm not really doing that bad. Just a little sniffly. Got a case of the Suds. Maybe I should go see Dr. Patriot. Hit him up. See if he's able to fix me. Dude, I took MiraCLE last night. I was doing fine actually, and then it all kind of hit me at once. I've been I've had a case of the sniffles for about a week. I think I was sniffling a lot in the last episode. I turn away from the mic way too much. I do this. I need to stop doing that. But I was definitely pretty sniffly last week, and then this week I was doing okay, and then last night it just Tuesday night it just hit me all at once, and so I took some MiraCLE, and it was funny. I took the MiraCLE, and then I was kind of laying in bed for 15, 20 minutes, something like that, and I was like, this isn't even working, because MiraCLE is supposed to make you feel tired and drowsy and go to sleep. And I took it, and then a while later, I was thinking, this isn't even making me tired. I could stay awake for a long time right now. And then as soon as I kind of said that and thought it to myself, I passed out. I was like, this isn't anything, man. I'm doing great. And then, boom, 2 seconds later, I got knocked out. So, that's kind of how it went for me. Woke up, still sniffly. I'm doing okay now. Once as soon as you get out of bed, it always kind of seems to get a little better. So I got my water as always. We're gonna push through it, chug along, and talk a little bit about the Browns, mostly the NFL today, because the Browns were obviously on a bye week. So this episode might end up being a little shorter than it normally is, unless I continue to talk about my Suds issues. But one thing to note, so let's just get into the Browns real fast. So they had a bye week, thankfully. We were able to beat the bye week as opposed to losing to it like we usually do. But with the bye week came not only extra practice, but also some tough decisions to be made about lineup changes. So we haven't made any big trades or splashes like I thought we would. No Trent Williams, which I kind of expected. I didn't really plan on that happening. I thought it was kind of just people blowing smoke. But John Dorsey hasn't made any moves, any big moves at least. I don't think he's made any moves at all, actually. So we'll see what happens with that. There's still time. I'm not curious to see when the trade deadline is. Let's look that up real fast. So this says the trading deadline is October 29th at 4 p.m. So that's in 6 days. So that's next Tuesday. So I feel like there's still time. There's 6 days and for Dorsey to do something. But I feel that if he hasn't done anything yet, or if we, I guess, as an organization haven't done anything yet, then we probably won't at all. But who knows? He might have something up his sleeve. We might be able to pull something off. Maybe help ourselves out a little bit more. But anyway, like I said, with the bye week, we got some potential lineup changes. Freddie Kitchens and some other people have talked about, specifically the offensive line. There's not really any reason to change anything else. But there was talk of changing the offensive line, mostly Greg Robinson. I think that would be the only piece that really moves. And I think I even said that in last week's episode or last week's podcast. I feel like I say episode weird. I say episode. So maybe I gotta work on that. Do my speech warm-ups before I record these things. Anyway, there was talk about switching that around at left tackle. But I said in last week's podcast that I'd be fine with keeping Chris Hubbard where he's at. Let's say we were to get a star at left tackle and that position is taken care of, Then right tackle, where Chris Hubbard is, becomes a weak spot, and he's definitely the weakest link on that offensive line at that point. But he's good enough. He's average. I wouldn't say he's good. I wouldn't say he's bad. I would say he's average. He commits a fair amount of penalties, unfortunately, but he can block. He's not terrible. Greg Robinson commits penalties and can't block. I don't know what happened last year, because last year it was a case of Desmond Harrison, who was a rookie, and so he was kind of working through some of those issues, and we were working through some of those growing pains with him. And then Freddie Kitchen, when Greg Williams took over, he decided to put Greg Robinson in, and he played well. He was blocking well. His penalties were at a decent level. So I don't really know what happened there, but nonetheless, here we are. So we're looking to kind of move that left tackle position around, which is important considering A, that's Baker's blind side, and B, it's one of the toughest positions to play in the NFL in general. So to have Greg Robinson in there, who is our weakest link on that line currently, is not so bueno. But we were, I guess, to throw out names, Kendall Lamb, who is back from his injury, I believe. I don't know much about him. I haven't really seen him play all that much, but I know he was kind of a huge depth guy for that offensive line, both at tackle and I think at guard as well. And then Justin McCray, who we got from the Packers, I believe. And he's played a few snaps. He played a few snaps when Chris Hubbard was out for 2 games, I believe. He got some time in. I'm pretty sure he's a veteran. He has some experience, and I remember saying he didn't play all that horribly. I mean, he played well with the time he was given. I thought, better or worse than Chris Hubbard, I don't really know, but I think maybe marginally better. Putting him in got us, I think it made us a little bit better. He's still. I remember him committing a few penalties and maybe, giving up a few plays, as far as not being able to block his guy is concerned. But he played okay. So I'm curious to see what we'll do this upcoming week and the kind of changes we'll make at the starting left tackle position. I don't think Greg Robinson stays there. I mean, with all this talk and with the fact that he's not good, and that we've had time to kind of reevaluate everything during the bye week, I think that he gets moved one way or another, or whether it's Kendall Lamb or Justin McCray, or maybe even we move some other pieces to left tackle and then stick Wyatt Teller in a different position. Whatever the case may be, Greg Robinson probably won't stay, and I don't really care. I mean, I'm fine with that. Whatever helps our offensive line, because it's not Greg Robinson. So that's that. And then we obviously have the Patriots this week. That sucks because we're going to lose. This is the least confident I've ever been about a Browns game ever, I think. One, because the Browns are so up and down and inconsistent and undisciplined, and we have a rookie head coach, and we're just not experienced enough. And we're going up Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, who are not only, who they are. They're not only all-time greats and Hall of Famers in their own right, but they're also having one of their best seasons ever. I mean, this might be better than the 16-0 season. And unfortunately, it stinks because they're probably going to go to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl, which I'm sick of. I don't want to see them win it twice in a row. I don't really want to see anyone other than the Browns win it 2 years in a row, let alone 3 out of 4. That would just, as an NFL fan, really be terrible. But anyway, yeah, they're having one of their best seasons ever. Their defense is unstoppable. They have the number 1 defense in the league in almost all facets. And I know as far as, fantasy implications are concerned, they're a top scorer on a lot of people's teams. I mean, they get 20 points consistently on average. I mean, they've had 30-point games. I think they might have only had one game below 10 points. And I think it wasn't like too far below 10 points. But other than that, they've had 20-point games, 30-point games, stuff like that. So their defense is crazy. I think they have 18 interceptions this season. I mean, that's nuts. Some teams don't have 18 turnovers, or takeaways, rather, including fumbles and interceptions and all that. And they have 18 interceptions alone. I guess when you play 7 games, that's still over 2 interceptions a game, which I feel is a lot. So Their defense is crazy. I don't expect the Browns' inconsistent and generally poorly run offense to be able to do anything against them. And our defense isn't good enough. Our defense has kind of been our saving grace the whole season because they've been pretty consistently good, minus the Titans game, which, is a fluke. I've mentioned that before, and I'll say it again. So with the exception of the Titans game, our defense has been, pretty solid. I mean, they haven't been great. They've given up some big plays, obviously some touchdowns here and there and whatnot, but they've been good and they've been solid and they've been reliable. Our offense just hasn't been able to help them out or give them a break. And even if our defense does play well on Sunday against the Patriots, there's no way that they're going to be able to play well enough to hold off Tom Brady and the Patriots offense for 60 minutes. Even if they, are able to get stops here and there, maybe, all game, even if they're able to get stops, here and there in the first quarter, the first half, maybe even all game, the law of averages is still going to have the Patriots putting up 20 points or something, at least. And I just don't even think we get anywhere close to that. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. There's, of course, huge upset potential with us coming off our bye week and just being as up and down as we are. I mean, we could have a great game. We could have a boom game, or we could have a bust game, which is the most likely scenario. And even if we lose, I wouldn't say it's a bust game. It's just the fact that the Patriots are so much better than us and that we're not good enough to beat them. So I wouldn't say it would be a bust game would be losing 60-0. But a normal loss would be, I don't know, 30-6, honestly. I don't know. Yeah, 24 to or 27-10, I think, would be a normal loss. Maybe that'll be my official prediction, but I guess we'll get into that in just a second. But going back to I was thinking about this, going back to the Browns' inconsistencies, and also this past week of the NFL, I have no clue how the Browns beat the Ravens. I mean, the Ravens, they lost to the Chiefs barely, who are obviously a great team. And then they got blown out by us, losing 2 in a row, and they've played amazing ever since. I mean, when they got blown out by us, I was like, okay, the Ravens are coming back down to earth. They're regressing. They kind of are going to stop playing as well as they were. But that hasn't been the case. Ever since they lost to us, they've won 3 straight, and they've looked great in all those games. Lamar Jackson is virtually unstoppable. I mean, he's a cheat code. So it makes me kind of nervous. I mean, when we beat them, it's like, okay, we have a chance to win this division. Ravens aren't as good as they had played. They played, the Cardinals and the Dolphins in the first 2 games, I think. But now, now they're great. I mean, they're playing really well. So I have no clue how we beat them. It might have just been a fluke like the Titans beat us. Maybe we just match up really well against them. Maybe we played harder because it was a division game, or maybe it was just one of those up games for us. I have no idea. But there's no way that that's going to be the case against the Patriots. Like I said, there's huge upset potential, especially if the Browns are on. I mean, the Patriots are never off, but maybe if they're having an average game. The Patriots' worst case scenario any given Sunday is playing an average game of football, which is usually enough to win. For playing an average game of football for any team is almost always enough to win because teams are most likely going to make a lot of mistakes. They'll commit turnover. They'll commit penalties. They'll have turnovers. They'll be poorly coached that day. Maybe they're on the road, which isn't really that big of a deal. Home and away games don't really make that much of a difference, I feel like. But there's a lot of factors that go into playing a below average game of football. It's hard to play a really good game of football all around from start to finish. So usually playing an average game of football is enough to win. And that's what the Patriots are at their worst, is average. And they haven't, on a week-to-week basis, over the course of the season, they haven't been average in almost 2 decades. But on a week-to-week basis, their worst-case scenario is being average. Now, if they are that, and we have an on game where we're just clicking and everything's going well, like we did against the Ravens, then sure, there's upset potential. But even if we do upset them, it's going to be by, 7 points or less, 1 possession, I think. It'll be close. There's no way we upset them by more than 2 possessions, or 2 scores rather. I think it's less than a 7-point game. So if we were to upset them, I would say it would be, I don't know, 27-24, maybe 27-20. But who knows? Maybe we'll completely blow them out. Maybe we'll win 40-10. I have no idea, but the point is I'm not really looking forward to this upcoming game. I think I will say that my official prediction for the game is 27-10 Patriots. Actually, excuse me. I'll say 30-10. I think 30-10 sounds unfortunately it doesn't sound as good for the Browns, but I think it might be more realistic score, and that's even if we can get 10 points. So, Patriots win 30-10. That'll be my official score for the game. And that really kind of does it for the Browns. Like I said, since we're coming off a bye week, there isn't much to talk about. We'll see what happens with the offensive line. We'll see what happens this Sunday, and we'll see if John Dorsey makes any trade before the deadline next week. And speaking of trades, 2 big ones yesterday in the NFL. Maybe I should have mentioned this when I was talking about the Patriots earlier, or just a second ago, but Mohamed Sanu got traded to the Patriots for I bookmarked Adam Schefter's tweet, so this is the source that I'm going off of. So the Falcons traded Mohamed Sanu to the New England Patriots for a second-round pick in this year's upcoming draft. So I think that's pretty good value. I've always liked Mohamed Sanu. I've always thought he was a good receiver. He's real reliable. He's tall, has good hands, great in the slot. Obviously, he can throw the ball. I mean, he's basically a backup. He's a third-string quarterback, basically. So he has. I mean, you can run a lot of stuff with him, through him. He kind of got, obviously with Julio Jones in that offense, you're looking at a number 2 at best. And ever since Calvin Ridley came in, he's kind of been, his number 2 spot has been taken over a little bit. So the Falcons don't really need him. I think they got a good pick in exchange. And the Patriots addressed, with the exception of their offensive line, I think they addressed a pretty big need, which is a receiver. I mean, they have some good ones. And, I mean, the Patriots, they can have any receiver and they'll make it work. They could have a bunch of third-string wide receivers and they'd make it work in that offense with Brady and Belichick. But having a genuine weapon, now that, Josh Gordon's questionable, his future in general is always questionable, but I think he's hurt now as well. And then you have some other, receivers here and there. Philip Dorsett's pretty good. But, the point is you address a need, and you get a really good wide receiver. So, I mean, the Patriots probably didn't need him to win the Super Bowl, but having him definitely doesn't hurt, of course. And then the other trade was Denver traded Emmanuel Sanders and a 2020 fifth-round pick to the San Francisco 49ers in exchange for a 2020 third and fourth-round pick. So, again, both of those sources of information are from Adam Schefter on Twitter. The 49ers, also a good team, also Super Bowl potential, addressed a need of their own, which is wide receiver, and they got Emmanuel Sanders, who I've never been too high on. I'm sure his stats and track record and production would disagree with me or would prove me wrong, but he's good. I'd say he's average, and he definitely has a lot of potential. And so the 49ers kind of getting him for a decent value definitely won't hurt them as well, especially addressing one of their needs at wide receiver as well, giving Jimmy Garoppolo just a couple more weapons, and it'll help that offense overall. Not that they need it either, but again, Emmanuel Sanders, decent receiver, definitely helps them out. I also heard that I think I saw somewhere that the 49ers wanted Mohamed Sanu, but then after the Patriots got him, they had to go after somebody else, and that somebody else ended up being Emmanuel Sanders. So they were definitely trying to make moves, and they ended up making one. So good for them. Both of those trades happen for the 2 undefeated teams that are left in the league, the 49ers at 6-0 and the Patriots at 7-0. So I definitely think that the the 49ers get beaten first, but I don't think that either of them are running the table and going undefeated. And honestly, if the Patriots do go 16-0, I'd be fine with that just because I could see them get upset in the Super Bowl again, and that's what I would root for. I mean, I'm gonna root for them to lose in the Super Bowl regardless, just because. Excuse me. Like I said, as a fan of the game, I don't want to see any team other than the Browns win 2 years in a row. I think that's boring, and I think it sucks. And I like a lot of championship turnover. But having the Patriots go 16-0 would make it even better to root against them. Maybe I'm just a hateful person. I definitely am a hateful person. I know that. But it's nice to have an underdog to root for. Because the first year I ever started watching football, the first year I really got into football in the NFL was in 2007, which was when the Browns went 10-6 and almost made the playoffs. So that was a kind of a misleading start to my Browns fandom. But it was also the year that the Patriots went 16-0, almost went 19-0, and then they got upset by the Giants in the Super Bowl, which was one of my favorite games of all time, probably one of most people's favorite game of all time, and I think it's the biggest upset in maybe not sports history. I probably don't know enough. I probably don't know enough upsets in sports that were huge, like enough huge upsets in sports to say that or to make that claim, but it's got to be in the top 10, I would think. So, anyway, I think that about does it. Guys, this has nothing to do with the NFL or football, but I cannot stop playing Clash Royale. I don't know, it kind of has to do with sports, esports, I guess. I'm just kind of thinking about it. I can't stop playing. I remember when it came out a couple of years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and I got it and I played it like nonstop for a little bit. And then, what usually happens is I'll play a game I'll play a game and only that game for so long until I get bored of it, and then I'll move on to another game. I will completely exhaust one game, then move on to the next and completely exhaust that one, instead of being able to like play multiple games at once and kind of mix it up and have fun with all of them. But I played it a long time ago for a while, and then I got rid of it, and I just so happened to stumble upon it again a few weeks ago, and I can't stop playing it. So Clash Royale and Supercell just got a free plug for me because that game is so addicting, and I'm having a great time with it. And I've literally been watching the competitive gameplay for it a lot the past few weeks as well. So it's been fun, but I thought I would throw that in there just because it's something going on with me, and somehow I'm supposed to make that segue into my outro, or my picks, actually, which I guess I just did. So my Week 7 record was 9-5. There were 14 games because 4 teams were on a bye week. It was the Browns, the Steelers, the Buccaneers, and the Panthers. So 14 games, I went 9-5. I don't think there were any huge upsets. The Colts beat the Texans. The Colts seem to continue beating some of the best teams in the conference. They beat the Chiefs, who were undefeated at the time and obviously a Super Bowl favorite. Now they beat the Texans, who also beat the Colts, and the Texans just look really good in general. So that division is going to be interesting to see who comes out of that division between those two, the Texans and the Colts. Because again, I think the Texans will, but the Colts, they play really well against good teams. So it'll be fun to watch as always. Cardinals beat the Giants. Cardinals are actually better than the Browns right now. I think they're so what? There's been 6 games, so I think they're 2-3-1 maybe, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe 3-2-1. Let's see. They're 3-3-1. Oh, so they haven't had a bye week yet. They've had 7 games. So the Cardinals are 3-3-1, which again is better than the Browns. So that's kind of crazy to think about and puts things into perspective. Dolphins are still winless. Bengals are still winless. Wait a second. Maybe the Bengals were on a bye. I don't see them playing anywhere here. No, they played the Jaguars. Okay, never mind. I'm not crazy. Yeah, Bengals are still winless, and the Dolphins are still winless. So there's 2 undefeated teams, 2 winless teams in the league. Saints beat the Bears. The Ravens beat the Seahawks pretty significantly. They won 30-16, so it's not like that was really... it kind of was a close game, sort of, especially in the beginning, maybe in the first half. I remember watching some of it. But for the most part, I mean, they won by 14 points. That's 2 scores, and that's a pretty significant margin of victory. So good for the Ravens. I mean, not good for the Browns, but good for the Ravens, I guess. Surprised they won that game. And then the Patriots just put the beat down on the Jets. Obviously, Sam Darnold threw 5 interceptions, so kind of makes me feel a little better about not drafting him. But we'll see what happens next week because, it's easy to say that it's easy to say that Baker Mayfield is a better choice than Sam Darnold when Sam Darnold throws 5 interceptions against the Patriots, but it's hard to say that when Baker throws 7 interceptions against the Patriots. So hopefully that we'll see what happens, but hopefully that doesn't happen. And if it does, then I can't really say anything bad about Sam Darnold. So let's move on to the Week 8 picks. I already said the Browns and Patriots. I think I said the Patriots win 30-10. I don't even remember what my pick was. 30-10, I'm pretty sure. Starting tomorrow, on Thursday Night Football, October 24th, you have the Redskins at Vikings. Going to take the Vikings in that one. Then on Sunday at 1 o'clock, it doesn't look like there's any London games, unless I'm being bamboozled again and there's a 1 o'clock London game. But starting at 1 o'clock, you have the Seahawks at Falcons. I'll take the Seahawks. Chargers at Bears. I'll take the Bears. Giants at Lions. I will take the Lions. Jets at Jaguars. I will take... That one's tough. I feel like the Jets could win it, but I'm going to say Jags. So the Jags take that one. Bengals at Rams. You have the Rams. Buccaneers at Titans. I'm going to take the Buccaneers, especially coming off a bye week. Eagles at Bills. I'll take the Bills. Broncos at Colts. Cardinals at Saints. The Saints, of course. And then that wraps it up for the 1 o'clock games. The 4 o'clock games, you have Panthers at 49ers. 49ers win. Raiders at Texans, giving it to the Texans. And then the Browns at Patriots, said the Patriots. And on Sunday Night Football, you have the Packers at Chiefs. That's going to be a really good game. That might be one of the best games of the year. I'm going to say the Packers just because Patrick Mahomes is out. But that's going to be a really good game with, they obviously both have really good offenses. And now that the Packers defense is really good, I think they can stop the Chiefs offense a little bit. So I'm going to say the Packers. I don't know if that's a hot take or an upset prediction necessarily, but I think it's going to be a good game that the Packers win. And lastly, on Monday Night Football, October 28th, you have the Dolphins at the Steelers. I don't know why. The Steelers are probably going to win, but I think I'm going to call for an upset and say the Dolphins win and get their first dub of the season. I know I'm going to regret that this time next week, and it's just going to add an extra number to the loss column and take a number away from the win column. But what can you do? That's the way it goes. I'm going to go on the record saying the Dolphins win that game. So I'm out of things to talk about. Podcast was about half as long as it normally could have been, but that's because the Browns were obviously on a bye week, so there was a little less to talk about. And maybe sometimes shorter podcasts are better. That way I don't, or because I don't ramble on as much like I did about being sick and Clash Royale. So thank you guys for listening. I appreciate it as always, and I will talk to you next week. Deuces.